G'day, I'm Peter Sheahan. I'm one of the co-authors of Matter. Years of research, dozens of companies studied to try and understand what it takes to become the obvious choice, to not have to compete purely on price, and yet still move beyond the competition. One critical insight, it was about creating more value. Either created more value or you didn't. But in order to create more value, you had to have an elevated impact. In other words, you had to find the things that mattered most to buyers, to the community, to employees, and solve those problems. But you couldn't have that elevated impact. You couldn't have that impact if you didn't have elevated relationships, if you didn't have access to the right level of influencer, if you didn't have deep enough relationships with them and the entire value chain to create the complicated solutions to the really important challenges that these buyers, these stakeholders had. But you would never get the relationship if you didn't have the credibility. And that's where we start with elevated perspective. See, it's one thing to move towards what we discovered as the edge of disruption, where new and emerging models begin to disrupt existing businesses that keep people up at night. It's a whole other thing to take what you learn and share it. Because there's this great philosophical saying, if a tree falls in the forest but no one sees and hears it, did it really fall? Well, objectively, yes, but if you know where the new opportunities are, if you have insight into the solutions that will solve the most complicated problems your customers face, but you keep that knowledge to yourself, you don't share that knowledge in the wider marketplace, and no one knows you have it, and no one invites you into the room to help them solve that problem, what's the point of having the knowledge to begin with? So within elevated perspective, the first capability, the third chapter of the book focused on this idea of sharing freely and widely. Because what we discovered is those with an abundant mindset, to those who shared much, more would be given. But this is a brave new world. This is not about writing a white paper or getting an op-ed piece in a print newspaper. Today it's about online channels. Did you know Cisco just did a study that found that 70% of the buying process had been completed before a buyer ever reached out to a service provider or solutions provider. In other words, they have done all of their research before they even call you for you to even tell them what's great and the attributes of your product. And they're doing it on a mobile device and they're doing it online. So if you're not, one, willing to share abundantly, but two, if you're not leveraging highly mobile enabled online platforms, then you are essentially proliferating content in a world that no longer exists. We have to go deep with this stuff and we have to take it seriously. It's no longer the privy of 13-year-old teenagers posting selfies. This is a core business tool that we have to take more seriously, whether it be social media, whether it be aggregated content providers. The online environment provides an extremely cost-effective and highly viral opportunity to share what we know. And to share what we know in a way that builds our credibility, that gives us the reputation we need to access the buyers, we need to have the impact, we need to create the value that allows us to differentiate ourselves. So one, you need this mindset of abundance. But in addition to that, three additional distinctions that we discovered from our research. Number one, it was about quality. It was about value, not volume. There is so much noise and so much happening out there in the content marketing world that if you're not truly delivering insights, rather than just making random predictions about the future and truly creating value for the right people, then you just get lost in the noise. So don't judge your success by the volume of followers or the volume of likes. Judge it by the specific people and the quality of the people that you're getting access to. Because being famous is not most of your goal. Getting market penetration probably is. Second additional distinction is provocation. If it's easily accepted and widely understood, it's probably not thought leadership. It's probably not going to give you the cut through you need to get access to the buyers and the senior influencers that you want. If you're truly out on the edge of disruption, if you're truly going after the solutions and the models and the capabilities of the future, you're going to be provoking the status quo. You're going to be bringing content and ideas that not everyone wants to agree with or actually agree with. But have the courage to do that. You will never be a quote-unquote thought leader unless you do. And it's important that you think through this lens of thought leadership. Because what we found is the opportunities to be different, the opportunities for which the scarcest number of available solutions and substitutes were those where there was massive amounts of uncertainty and massive amounts of complexity. Now here's the good news. In times of uncertainty, when facing massive amounts of complexity, stakeholders, buyers, influencers, customers, employees gravitated towards confidence, clarity, and insight. They actually went after thought leadership and thought leaders. And that's the final of the additional distinction, is this idea that thought leadership is not a marketing tactic, it's a way of life. It's building a learning culture, and building a learning culture that has abundance, willing to share. and to establish and move the entire market, competitors and all, into a better place. But understanding that by doing that movement and being in the front of that trend, by packaging their elevated perspective and proliferating it through these online platforms and channels, they were able to elevate the relationships they had, which enabled the impact they needed to create the value that allowed them to stand out from the crowd. So share abundantly, use technology when you do it, be provocative, and make thought leadership a way of life. That's part of the way you need, part of the process you need to be a company that truly matters.